Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Tonight we're heading to a place that's whispered about in hushed tones, a place people drive past a little faster than they should. Tucked away between dark forests and empty farmland lies the town of Ravens Hollow, and on its edge the infamous Blackwood Cemetery. The locals won't go near it, not because it's old, but because something feels deeply wrong there. They talk about strange lights after midnight, voices from empty air, and shadowy figures walking among the tombstones. But the most chilling rumor is the simplest. If you enter Blackwood Cemetery at night, something follows you home. Daniel Carter never believed in ghost stories. At 31, he was a successful urban explorer, running a popular channel where he'd take his viewers into abandoned hospitals, empty prisons, and ruined mansions. But a haunted cemetery at night, that was a first. When he stopped for directions at the only gas station in Ravens Hollow, the old clerk behind the counter gave him a strange look. "You're not from around here," he said. "Nope," Daniel replied cheerfully. "Just passing through. I heard about Blackwood Cemetery." The clerk's smile vanished. "You're not going there tonight," he said slowly. Daniel just laughed. "That's exactly when I'm going." The old man leaned forward. "Listen carefully," he whispered. "People who go there after midnight, they don't come back the same." Daniel shrugged it off. Ghost stories make great content. As Daniel was leaving, the clerk shook his head. "Just remember one thing," he called out. "What's that?" Daniel asked. "If you hear someone calling your name in the cemetery, don't answer." A thick fog rolled in as Daniel parked his car. The rusted iron gates of Blackwood stood before him, barely visible in the mist. "All right, everyone," he said into his recording mic. "Tonight we're exploring the infamous Blackwood Cemetery." The gate groaned loudly as he pushed it open, the sound echoing through the night. Inside, the cemetery was a maze of crooked tombstones and twisted trees. He started snapping photos. A cracked angel statue, a row of moss-covered graves, an ancient mausoleum swallowed by ivy. Everything was perfect for his video until the temperature plummeted. His breath turned to white clouds in the air. That's when he heard it. A scraping sound, scrape, like stone grinding against dirt. He shined his flashlight toward the nearest grave, but saw nothing. "Probably just an animal," he muttered, but his stomach tightened. As he walked deeper, the fog thickened, swallowing the world around him. He lifted his camera and took another photo. When he looked at the screen, his smile faded. There was a figure behind him in the picture, a tall shadow standing between two gravestones. He spun around. Nothing. He looked back at the photo. The shadow was still there, watching him. "Lens glitch," he told himself, but a chill crawled up his spine. The next photo was worse. He stopped in front of a tall, freshly cleaned tombstone. It looked almost new. He aimed his flashlight at the name carved into the stone, and his heart nearly stopped. It read, "Daniel Carter, born 1995, died 2026. "That's not funny," he whispered. Suddenly, The wind died. The cemetery fell completely silent. Then the scraping returned, but this time it was coming from everywhere. He slowly turned around. The tombstones were moving. Slowly sliding through the soil, every single one turning to face him. The ground trembled. A pale, decaying hand burst through the dirt right beside his foot. He screamed and jumped back as another hand clawed its way out. Then another and another. The soil cracked open all over the cemetery as rotting bodies began dragging themselves upward. Grey faces, empty eye sockets, broken jaws hanging open. Dozens of corpses crawling from their graves, all turning toward him. Daniel ran. He sprinted through the fog, the dragging sound getting closer and closer. Something grabbed his ankle, a cold, dead hand. He kicked wildly until it let go and ran even faster, branches tearing at his jacket. Finally, he saw the gate. He burst through it and collapsed onto the road, gasping for breath. When he looked back, the cemetery was completely still. The fog drifted peacefully. No hands, no body, okay? That was weird. He laughed shakily and walked toward his car. Behind him, the cemetery gate slowly creaked shut. The next morning, a police officer found a camera lying on the road. Inside were hundreds of photos from Blackwood, but the final photo made the officer feel sick. It showed Daniel standing at the cemetery gate, looking directly at the camera. But Daniel wasn't holding it. Someone else had taken the picture, and behind him hundreds of dark figures stood between the graves. Watching, waiting. The officer zoomed in on the closest tombstone. Carved into the stone were the words, "Welcome home," and beneath it, a freshly dug grave with Daniel Carter's name on it. 3 days later, the story of the missing photographer had spread through Raven's Hollow. The police had searched the cemetery and found nothing. No fresh grave, no footprints, no body. Daniel Carter had simply vanished. But hundreds of miles away, his sister Emily wasn't buying it. She stared at the photos from his camera, her heart pounding at the last one. Daniel, terrified, with hundreds of shadowy figures behind him. The shapes looked like people, but they were wrong. Too tall, too thin, their eyes glowing faintly in the dark. Emily slammed her laptop shut. "Something happened to him there," she whispered. 2 days later, she was driving toward Raven's Hollow. She stopped at the same gas station, and the same old clerk recognized Daniel's photo immediately. "You're his sister," he said quietly. "You told him not to go there, didn't you?" Emily asked. The clerk sighed. "I warned him. Blackwood Cemetery doesn't like visitors." He leaned closer. "That place isn't just a cemetery. It's older than this town. Some say the land was cursed long before the first graves were placed there." Emily's eyes narrowed. "My brother is missing." The clerk's expression darkened. "And if you go looking for him tonight, you might join him." As she walked out, he called after her, "Remember what I said, if you hear someone calling your name." Emily paused at the door. "Don't answer," she finished. At exactly midnight, Emily stood before the rusted gates. The fog was thick, the silence unnatural. Gripping her flashlight, she stepped inside, the gate creaking shut behind her. She followed the path from Daniel's photos, passing the broken angel, the ivy-covered mausoleum. Then, on the ground, she saw it, Daniel's backpack. Inside, she found a small notebook. The final page had a shaky message. "The graves are moving." A chill ran down her spine. Then she heard it scrape. She turned slowly. Scrape. One of the tombstones had moved. In Daniel's photo, it faced north. Now, it faced her. That's when she heard a voice. Soft and familiar. "Emily." Her heart stopped. "Daniel," she called out. The voice came again from deeper in the fog. "Emily, help me." Tears filled her eyes as she started to run toward the sound, but then she remembered the clerk's warning. She froze. "Emily, please," the voice begged, "closer this time." She trembled, turning her flashlight toward the sound. Between two gravestones stood a tall, thin figure. It had Daniel's body, but its face was a void of darkness, with two glowing eyes staring out. Then dozens of other figures stepped out from the fog, hundreds of them, all whispering her name. "Emily, Emily." The ground began to shake, and the graves started turning, all of them to face her. Emily turned to run, but the path was gone. The graves had shifted, blocking her exit. The figures moved closer, dragging their feet across the dirt. Then one stepped into a sliver of moonlight. It was Daniel. His skin was pale gray, his eyes glowed faintly, and his mouth was stretched into a horrifying smile. "Stay with us," he whispered. The fog parted behind him, revealing hundreds of freshly carved tombstones. Each one had a name of someone who had entered Blackwood and never left. And in the center, one empty grave waited, with Emily Carter's name already carved into the stone. The next morning, police found another camera, Emily's. The final photo showed the cemetery hill filled with shadowy figures, and in the center stood two shapes, Daniel and Emily, both staring into the camera, both smiling. And deep inside Blackwood Cemetery, two new graves had appeared, waiting for the next visitor. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.